It's the Lauri J. Goldstein Show with Lauri J. Goldstein from a law firm of Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates in Stewart's. Featuring local realtor Diane Chandler from Tradewinds Realty. And now, here's Lauri J. Goldstein, attorney at law.
Well, good morning to you once again. Well, Lauri is on assignment and getting ready for some court action today. So that's why we have Daniel Norton here with us from the law firm of Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates. Hi, I'm Barry Grant, and glad to be here as part of the Lauri J. Goldstein team. And Dan Norton, of course, is a Florida board certified civil trial attorney, and he's with the firm. And Dan, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Barry. Thanks for having me back.
Well, I tell you what, we're just glad to have you here, and there's so many things that are going on in the news these days about people that are getting injured and for one reason or another, and there's a lot of people that when I was on vacation here just last week, I passed a lot of people that were in car accidents, okay? But, there's one thing about it. People have, they just don't understand how, the process works.
Right.
And whether, do I really need to get involved in a litigation? Maybe, what is the process there? And so those are the kind of things that we like to answer, and we like to make people feel comfortable about what they're doing, as far as all of the time limitations and everything else that comes into play in an accident. And so I thought we'd kind of dwell on that today, so that we could kind of get some perspective from you, Dan, as how to proceed. You have an accident in, let's say, on I-95, and you're driving along, no problem, and then all of a sudden somebody kind of swerves over into your lane. The next thing you know, you've wound up in an accident. What's the first thing that you need to do at that point?
Okay, at the point where you actually have the accident, obviously, if you have anybody in your car, you make sure that everybody in the vehicle is okay.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure that you're okay. And then the first thing you really want to do is you want to contact the police. You want to contact either the sheriff's office or the Florida Highway Patrol, depending on where you are, to come to the scene, for a couple reasons. Number one, they are going to investigate and determine how the accident happened, what happened. They will determine whether or not anybody is injured and requires medical care at the scene, and will be able to contact that medical care. And also, unfortunately, you'll see accidents where, the parties get angry, and a lot of odd things can happen, depending on what's going on. So it's always good to have an individual there who is objective and has the ability to make sure things remain calm.
Yes.
It also is something that is necessary as you go forward, whether or not you're injured or you just have damage to your car. But you do have to have some type of record to show what happened, how it happened, and where it happened, and the times, because insurance companies, unfortunately, will do everything they can to deny claims, and if they can find a reason to deny a claim, they will do so. So the more information and the more documentation that you have, the better.
Somebody hit me the other day, and they they said, "Hey, let's not call the police. Let's just handle this between ourselves. I can fix your car for you." I didn't know this person from a sack of rice.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, now wait a minute, no. This is not the proper way to handle it. In your experience, what would you say to something like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we all recognize that sometimes people don't have insurance, sometimes people have financial difficulties, and we want to be the nice person. But ultimately, you really have to look out for your interests for a couple of reasons. Number one, scam artists are rampant in the state of Florida. So, taking somebody that you've never met at their word, although you would hope that in our society we could do that, that's not the reality any longer. Also, more practically, the damage that you see to your car at the scene of the accident could be different than the damage that a professional estimator sees, or something even after you've had your car repaired, you feel the car just isn't working well anymore,
Right.
and you go back and you find that there's something more. So it could always be an ongoing issue. So you always want to make sure that you have, the other driver's insurance information, to go forward. And also beyond, honestly, beyond, just the property damage aspect, very often at the scene of the accident, people who've been involved in an accident don't feel like they've been injured. But that night, the next day, or even a couple days later, the stiffness, the pain, the soreness sets in, and now the person that was there is gone, and you have
Right.
no way of recreating those steps.
Exactly. And isn't there a time limitation as far as when you're looking at PPI, personal injury protection of your in your policy? How does that work?
Yeah, unfortunately, the insurance industry has a very, very strong lobby, and years and years and years, they always try to take away. They've been taking away people's rights slowly, and back in 2008, they pulled off a trick that really most people don't even know about anymore, which really limits what your insurance is. But if you do not see a doctor within the first 14 days of an accident, you do not have medical insurance through your automobile, even though you've paid for it.
Wow.
And you could have been paying for it for years, but after that 14-day period of time, they're not going to pay. Beyond that, even if you do see a doctor in that 14-day period of time, if you don't see the right doctor or you don't have the right information for that doctor, the insurance company will then limit the amount of coverage you have, saying that the injuries that you suffered weren't an emergency, weren't a certain type of
Right.
injury. So instead of having $10,000 in coverage, which you pay for, they'll say you only have $2,000 in coverage.
Oh wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, and anybody who's been to a hospital in the last 5 years knows when you sign your name, that costs you $2,000.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
if you don't know your rights and you don't know your policy, you can get yourself into a pretty sticky situation fairly quickly.
So it's important to really act quickly and in a timely fashion once you've had an accident. It's not that you're out there just waiting for the opportunity to, spring into action and say, okay, well now I've got a lawsuit.
Right.
What you're looking at is there is a time limitation that's set because of the law.
Right, and that's exactly it. People get the wrong impression that you're trying to create something that may or may not be there, but what you're really doing is covering your bases, making sure that if there is something that ultimately is there, you've taken the steps to make sure that you're protected going forward. Because if you don't, it's gone.
Right.
And I've been doing this for 23 years now, and one of the things that I hear regularly is, people at the scene of an accident, the adrenaline kicks in, there's a lot going on. After the accident is over, the last thing they want to do is go sit in an emergency room. So they go home, and then, they feel bad that night. They feel bad the next day. Oh, I'll wait a little while, see if it gets better. I'll ice it. I'll take some aspirin. And then they realize, my goodness, not only is this not getting better, it's getting worse.
Right.
And now time has passed, and you don't have any way to pay for your medical bills or any way to get compensated for any losses that you've suffered.
Right. There's no recourse, and that's a dangerous position to be in, and that's for sure. Well, that's one of the things that is so really makes Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates cut above, I think, in the personal injury protection here for your clients, because you take a proactive approach, and one of the things that I can remember out of that same accident was that David Aversa, who's one of the attorneys there on staff, mentioned to me, well, I casually mentioned that I'd had an accident. He said, well, how long ago did you have the accident? And he says, well, did you realize that there was only 2 days left?
Right.
So you need to see, did you see a doctor? And I said, no, but I've got some, tension, headaches, and I've got some pain in my neck and my back. And he said, well, we need to get you to see someone.
Right.
And you know what? I got in to see somebody that day.
Yeah, because we deal with people who've been injured all the time, and for the most part, people don't understand the system, don't understand what their rights are, and they're typically very upset with what has just happened. Sometimes they're now without a car because of the damage done to their car. We've realized that sometimes we really have to be proactive and make sure that these people, in situations like you, who obviously understands a good portion of this,
Right.
but you don't know the ins and outs, and it's always good to get checked by a doctor, no matter what, if you've been injured, and you're feeling something, because none of us have the medical background to diagnose ourselves,
Right.
and you never know what might pop up. So I think it's just being a good person, looking out for somebody who comes to you and say, hey, listen, even if it turns out to be nothing, you need to get checked out by a doctor just to make sure.
Absolutely. So those are very important factors that you want to remember if you've been in an accident, or or you had somebody that is in your family that was involved in an accident. Make sure that they get to see somebody within days
Right.
of that accident to make sure that they're checked out and they're okay. But if you have had an accident, or you know somebody who's had an accident and they need representation, there's an easy number to contact for Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates, and that number is pretty easy. I mean, it's the number 2 call.
Absolutely. And it's funny because anytime I ever give that number to somebody, they're like, really? but they remember it immediately. And that number is 772-222-2222. You can't forget it.
You can't forget that. That's just the brilliant stroke of marketing, I think, right there.
Absolutely.
So, but that's not the only car accidents and motorcycle accidents, and of course I saw my a lot of truck accidents because I was out on the interstate highways going up to the state of Georgia this past week. But we look at other different things that happen: slip and fall, the negligent security, products liability. We still have some of that mold exposure type of situation here in Florida, and just things that happen. People go swimming in our in the lagoon,
Right.
and end up with this toxic problem that breaks out on their skin, and it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because there are a lot of attorneys who advertise that they do personal injury law, okay, and don't necessarily break down what it is that they do. There is a certain level of expertise that is required for almost any type of claim that you bring, and once you get beyond the rear end automobile accident, now you start getting into how qualified the attorneys are to be able to handle your specific set of circumstances. Mentioning mold as one of the things that you mentioned, that is an area of law that I actually got very involved in years ago, and was involved in a class action lawsuit arising out of mold exposure in an apartment complex in Coral Springs. And you realize very, very quickly that if you don't know every aspect of that law, you are not representing your clients the way you should be. And so, when you look for an attorney, especially if you're in an accident that might not be what would be considered the run-of-the-mill kind of an accident,
Sure.
You definitely want to make sure that the people that you're talking to know what to do, because things can go very badly very quickly if you have an attorney who's not qualified to be handling your case.
Exactly, and I think one of the reasons why I was bringing that up was that when we were on vacation and of course getting ready to have my daughter's wedding on August 8th, the house that we were staying in, we happened to look up and we kind of noticed that there was mold in the ceiling, and I thought, I'm glad that we're not staying here for an extended period of time. It was only a few days, but I mean, those kind of things, when you see that,
Right.
I mean, that kind of triggers something that, they still have that?
Yeah.
There's still mold in places and buildings like that?
And unfortunately, when you see the mold, usually it means the mold on the other side of that wall is much worse than what you see on the front side of the wall.
Yes, exactly. And so yeah, that's one of the things. But that's as we said, as Dan Norton tells you, that's exactly what you need to know in the way of making an intelligent choice for an attorney, and that is knowing the people who know that particular type of problem that you have, and knowing a little bit more about it than just saying, okay, this is we'll take your case, and that's the difference for the clients at of course Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates, and they're located at 1330 South Dixie High, or actually South US 1 in Stewart, and been there for quite some time. Lauri's been in the business of personal protection for at least 22 years, and coming up on I think she's coming up on 25 years, in fact.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So she's going to have a 25th anniversary coming up here pretty soon, so that's going to be great. So we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back in studio here on 1450 WSTU with a gentleman by the name of John Nelson. He is the CEO of a great organization that has done a lot for our area. It's the Families Against Drunk Driving. And we, as a firm, have gotten behind a lot of the different events that particular organization has done.
Yeah, wonderful organization.
Really is. And they're about ready to have another golf tournament coming up at the great PGA National in Palm Beach Gardens. So we're going to talk to John about that event. Dan, we want you to stick around with us because we've got a lot more to talk to you about as far as what's going on with of course, Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates, as we continue on with Lauri J. Goldstein Show on this Tuesday here on 1450 WSTU. We'll be back. Have a legal question? Talk to Lauri for free. 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU. Well, we are back here with the Lauri J. Goldstein Show on this Tuesday, and of course, Dan Norton is with us from the law firm of Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates. Dan, thanks for joining us here. And also on the phone line with us today is a good friend of ours and a good friend of Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates, and that is John Nelson, who is the CEO Executive Director of Families Against Drunk Driving. Good morning, John.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, it's great. It's great to have you on the show today. I know that your organization has been helping out a lot of families, and that the problem of drug abuse and alcohol abuse and that sort of thing is not just with the person that is involved in that type of problem. That goes pretty deep into the family, doesn't it, John?
That's pretty correct. It really just affects everybody. The job, the system. The family takes the brunt of it there, Barry.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, your organization has been so connected and so available to help out the families in all kinds of different events. I know that you've been taking youngsters down to Dolphin games and the Heat games and that sort of thing. And that's just really a great service that you have and part of the Families Against Drunk Driving.
We've really tried hard to go into the community and listen to where the real needs are. Over the last 6 months, we've expanded and added familiesrecovers.org, which is the service side of Families Against Drunk Driving. We recently opened up in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got a wonderful 15-year-old IndyCar driver that's tearing the speedway up that came to us about 6 months ago and asked if he could be a part, and it just made sense. So we made him our youth spokesman. So we're getting a lot of ESPN and Sports Center. Getting ready to do a big outreach in Las Vegas. October 10th through the 12th at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway with the DUI. It's companies like Lauri's and Stryker Electric, and just the list is big. It's made it possible, and we've taken it slow enough to where we get the right people involved. We would not only help our cause, there's many other 501c3s in the area with at-risk kids that we've been donating clothes and food and football supplies, and we just want to be a part of the answer.
Right, and I tell you what, there may be some in the audience today that don't know a lot about your organization, and really tell us a little bit about how Families Against Drunk Driving got started. Would you do that?
About 5 years ago, I was going through a pretty bad domestic divorce here in town. We've been here 13 years now. Bad divorce, custody battles, alcohol abuse, and it's a great story today. It wasn't at the time, but I just couldn't get the authorities to participate to keep some family members from driving with their kids in the car at all times under the influence. And I just woke up one day and said, you know what? There's got to be something done to where the legislation is going to be a little bit tougher and the authorities have a little bit more authority to govern these things, and that's stuff that we're working on today. And that's how Families Against Drunk Driving was born. I went online one night, sunbiz.org, and we became a Florida nonprofit. The next day I went online and applied for our 501c3. We are a 501c3 rated nonprofit that's A-rated. We gave away about $18,000 to other charities last year, Kids in Need. We did a big Philip Harvey. We did a big candlelight service for him. He was killed in an accident coming up on 2 years ago.
Yes.
And it's if you go on and look at the stats, alcohol and drug abuse in this nation is an epidemic.
Yes, it is.
It's an epidemic level. And if we don't start going after the answer, which is education and prevention, and it starts at an early age, it's just going to continue to get worse. Sheriff Snyder is really helped us out a lot. Rick Bradshaw I just sat down with him last week for lunch. He's going to be emceeing our golf event at PJ National this year.
Great.
Talking about what can we do as a nonprofit to help get in there and make a difference with other nonprofits. I say that because it's important, because you know what? It's not about being this common of a nonprofit that wants to put on nice clothes and walk in and look good. We want to help other nonprofits succeed at all.
Wonderful.
So it's just, you know what, Barry, you've always been a good friend, and it just comes down to this. It takes funding. It takes a lot of time. Our golf tournaments take about 6 months of effort. You know, the heat, they're sending free buses up here this year. They don't charge us for their wrap tour bus.
Wow.
We're about 2,000 people down to the stadiums over the last 4 years, just trying to teach them that they can be a part of in a productive way. You know, people that never thought that they could go to an event like that, it's expensive.
Yes.
They really help us a lot. The Dolphins and the Heat are both extremely gracious to a 501c3, not just us, all of them, to make it possible to bring these events to be able to come to fruition and you know, try to make a positive difference in these kids and in these young adults' lives.
Yes. Well, tell us a little bit about this tournament. Now, this is how many annual tournaments have you had at the PGA National?
This will be our 4th at PGA. We did our first one at Florida Club, which is a wonderful venue, but we decided that it was smart for us to move more down into the population to help spur, because we play out of season. We're the last weekend out of season. A lot of the snowbirds are back, so our big difficulty was getting a full field,
Right.
because a lot of people just weren't here.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided that it would be better for our sponsors also, because we do hit 5 counties pretty hard, you know, and that's great for, I don't know about any other business owner. I own a small construction company. I would love to be able to get my name out in 5 counties. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the amazing part of what you have with Families Against Drunk Driving, and what date is that particular golf tournament going to be?
October 24th. We're going to take over the Squire course. We were already at about 75 golfers. We could use another 75.
Good.
We've got 4. We still have 4 openings for T-Box sponsorships. We have great sponsors that keep returning year after year. Brayman Motor Car is, again, doing the hole-in-one contest, so there'll be great prizes on all the par 3s. You know, a super ticket's $40. You could walk away with a brand-new BMW.
Wow, that's pretty good. You know, that's not bad. $40 for a brand new BMW? Why not?
I got everyone. I told my wife that I was going to be the one that would be driving it. So she's a little mad. Mary, she's just a little mad at me this year.
Oh, I'll bet. You know, I wouldn't doubt it. So, what's the best number to contact you to find out about how you can be involved, maybe as a sponsor, or maybe you know, get involved with a foursome with your tournament?
You can get us either online at john@famad.org or 772-285-5828 is my number.
All right, great. And we'll definitely, you know, look forward to that time, because I know that Lauri is going to be involved in that particular tournament and help you out to get some more great word out.
You know, Barry, we love seeing the law enforcement come out. We love seeing the law firms come out. You know, Dennis, we're setting up a circle of services that think of a DUI crash, or think of an addiction. What do you need in that circle? Well, you need legal representation.
Yes.
A lot of times you've got busted up, you need a chiropractor. You need an orthopedic. You know, our website's getting looked at all the way over in Dubai, in Africa, and in Las Vegas. We're open in Las Vegas. We're opening in Southern California.
Wow.
You know, we want to take part in trying to make it a little bit better for the next generation.
Absolutely.
And it just takes great sponsors, because it takes effort and it takes money.
Yes, absolutely. So it's a 501c3, and if you'd just like to make a donation, you can do that too, right, John?
We can go right on our website, www.familiesagainstdrunkdriving.org, and please go through. You'll see great videos. You're getting ready to help us with a great video, and we're going to have a great PowerPoint at the golf tournament.
Exactly.
You can go on our website. We are PayPal assisted, which is the most secure way of making a donation. I got a quick story. We had a call from a young lady from Arizona the other day. Her son died at 41 from alcoholism.
Oh, my.
And she's a month old, and she's crying.
Oh.
And I'm listening, and I'm listening, and I'm listening. And she goes, I don't want any of his assets to go anywhere except to some organization such as yours, where I know that you're trying to make a difference in kids' lives. Now, you know, what do you say? We're setting up a memorial page. Philip Harvey's going to be on there, and Ethan Bryan. He's my mentor's grandson died in a DUI on Christmas Day this year. I'm the founder of a nonprofit drunk driving 501c3. I'm having apple pie with this young man at 8 o'clock on Christmas Day this year, and he was dead that night at 12:30.
Oh,
he was 19 years old.
Oh, my.
We buried him on New Year's Day. That's how Families Against Drunk Driving started this year. One of our own.
Yes.
It's just, the parents in the schools. If you see some kid that's out of control, let their parents know.
Right.
Because sometimes the parents they can't see it or they don't want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about saving lives.
That's what it is. You're absolutely right. And John, thank you so much for joining us here today on the Lauri J. Goldstein Show. We really appreciate it, and we're definitely going to be part of this year's tournament. All right?
We love it.
All right. We look forward to talking with you again. And John, keep up the good work with Families Against Drunk Driving.
God bless and see you later.
All right. That's John Nelson. He's the CEO and the executive director for Families Against Drunk Driving, one of the great nonprofit organizations that's supported in part by the Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates firm right here in Stewart. We're going to take a short break. We're going to be right back. We're here with a good friend of ours, Tom Tranberg, and he's, of course, with Tradewin Realty here in Stewart, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about what's going on in real estate. So check it out. It's part of the Lauri J. Goldstein Show right here on this Tuesday on 1450 WSTU.
Have a legal question? Talk to Lauri for free. 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU.
And we are back with the Lauri J. Goldstein Show on this Tuesday here on 1450 WSTU. Like to have you give us a call sometime if you have a question about anything related to possibly an accident, or maybe you have a question that you'd like to ask an attorney about, because we have Daniel Norton here with us today from the law firm of Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates. And if you'd like to get in a phone call, just feel free to call us at 9788-220-WSTU. We'll be glad to help you out with any kind of question that you might have. But right now, we're going to talk a little bit about real estate. Diane Chandler is the owner of Tradewind Real Estate Corporation, and associated with her is a good friend of mine, Thomas Tranberg. Thomas, you have been in the real estate business in Martin County for a long time. I would say somewhere around, 15 years?
15 years. I've been with Diane at Tradewind Real Estate for 3 years now. We're right in historic downtown Stewart. It's a great place to be, great location. Prior to that, I was over in Palm City for 12 years.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I bet you've seen a lot of growth from the Palm City area. Now with this, let me ask you a question. Now with this new bridge that we have, you've got the Veterans Memorial Bridge, you've got the Palm City Bridge. How are you seeing? How is that affecting the real estate the real estate market over in Palm City right now with the two bridges?
I think it was a positive because the amount of traffic going into Stewart in the mornings was kind of unbearable. I think the property values in Old Palm City are starting to rise, which you can see considerably in the last year.
Yeah.
So I think it's definite positive. The bridge looks great. A lot of people are using the bridge, but I think that whole down Old Palm City kind of area there has definitely benefited from that.
Yeah, and it seems like we're seeing a lot more businesses coming there too.
That too. I mean, it's a great. They're widening the road there, so it's a great opportunity for new businesses. I mean, Publix knew about that years ago, so they jumped on the bandwagon, and it was a great move for them. I think that as being a Palm City resident for 13 years. It was just so hard to get back and forth every day, and now with the new bridge open, it's just making it so convenient for people, and it's a great location over in Palm City there. I mean, and Stewart as well.
Right, and of course, with all of the things that we have to deal with as far as getting around, in the Stewart area, we've really become a mecca right now for people to come and see what's going on in our portion of the Treasure Coast. Because Stewart has been hitting the news quite a little bit, and I think you give credit where credit is due. We've had 2 visits from a seated president of the United States. I mean, obviously there's going to be some weight there that says, well, how come he's going to Stewart? And how come he's over in Palm City? And how come he's, like playing golf on this thing called the Floridian? You know what I mean?
Floridian's a beautiful club. I played golf there a few times myself back in the days, and it's just such a wonderful way of life here. We're getting a lot of influx from people from South Florida, Miami, south of Miami, moving up for a quieter lifestyle. School systems, obviously, and. It's just a more laid back way of life, and people here love it. I mean, there's so much waterfront here. The boating industry is thriving. It's just been a great place to raise a family.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that even in the downtown area of Stewart, I think we're seeing a resurgence there too, because it seems like, things that we're having like the Rock and River Walk that we have every weekend, and
that benefits every business down there. And,
Yeah.
And being typically out of season right now with the snowbirds,
Sure.
I see an influx of people down there on the weekends and in the evenings, lunchtime, where 3, 4, 5 years ago it was kind of slow this time of the year.
Yeah.
Not the case anymore.
No, it isn't. It seems like we've gotten to that point where we have seasons, but each one of the seasons has its own reward.
Right, exactly.
If you know what I'm saying.
It sure
So
does.
it's pretty great. Now that leaves us to talk about, you mentioned about snowbirds, and we're still, don't you find with your website and with the other things that you do at Tradewind, with multiple listing and that sort of thing, don't you find that there's more people from outside the state of Florida that are still looking to buy on the Treasure Coast?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a destination place for retirees, and the big population in the Northeast, Canada, and Europe. We have a big drawer to Stewart area from those states and countries. I just think that it's just such a great destination place, and it's still kind of a hidden gem. I mean, people are finding out. I have people coming into my office all the time. This is our first time in Stewart. I'm like, really? And they're just like, we love it. We we want to walk around. We like little towns. We like people when we stop on the street that'll not only give us directions, but they'll say, "Oh wait, I'll walk you down there."
Exactly.
You know, it's just a great way of life.
It is, and it's just a different lifestyle that that you would hope to find in every state or in every city in Florida, but unfortunately it isn't like that. I mean, if you go to Tampa or you go to Miami, you go to Orlando, you don't find that, but you find it here, and this is what I think makes us that gem that you were talking about. Tell me a little bit about the situation as far as that we've got some things that are definitely wonderful things about our area. We've got great schools. We've got wonderful downtown area, that sort of thing. But there are other things that are out there. We've got the greatest golf courses in the world. What are some of the hot areas of real estate right now for the Treasure Coast? Is it more people looking for something on the water? Are they looking for something with the golf course in mind? What is it that they're looking for right now?
You know, in the Stewart area, it's kind of all of it. I mean, they're coming here for the dream. You know, the golf is. Martin County probably has more golf courses than any county I've ever lived in. I mean, I'm from New Jersey, but I mean, there's just so much to do down here. And the waterfront, it's on fire right now. I mean, they're just selling stuff. They can't keep it on the market, quite frankly. It's a lot of boaters coming down here. I mean, just look at the marinas in August; they're full.
Right.
I mean, that a couple of years ago was not the case. More people are starting to come in. They realize it's a great run over to the Bahamas. I mean, where else can you get all of that?
And that's the other thing. I did not realize until I'm looking on the website. You actually have some properties over in the Bahamas, don't you? That you do some business there internationally, I guess is what you say with Tradewind.
Our office does, yes, we do. Yes,
So,
we do.
so how's that working? I mean, is that people are interested in doing that type of? I mean, do you find yourself doing more condos, or what is the real estate market like over there?
Over there, it's for us, it's been houses, and it's a great spot to be for people. And like I say, it's such an easy run over there that it's kind of like driving to Miami, but you're in your boat going to the Bahamas. I mean,
you're in your boat. I like it. Well, what's a good number to contact you, Tom, over at Tradewind? What would be the best number to get in touch with you?
You can call the office at 772-288-0559, or my cell phone is 772-631-0270.
I like that. That's good, Tom.
Barry, I'm going to give Tom some unsolicited endorsement here.
Oh, I like that.
And he had no idea I was going to say this. I actually met with Tom a couple weeks ago, and he showed me a couple properties. I've been in South Florida for 20 years, the entire time in Palm Beach County, and my wife sees herself as a Palm Beacher, and would never have considered moving out of the Palm Beach area. And Tom showed me a couple of properties, just because I want to be closer to where the office is.
Sure.
And when I went home and I took my wife online to the Tradewind's website and showed her what I was looking at, she was ready to pack her bags. Not only did Tom hit it right on the head, what she would want based on the few things that I told him.
Right.
But he basically sold 2 properties to a woman who was never going to leave Palm Beach, and she can't wait to get up here. So I've been holding her off getting in touch with you. Got to get a couple of things worked out. But you will be hearing from my wife shortly, I'm sure.
Fabulous.
Exactly. Well, that is a great endorsement, and that really is a terrific difference there because there is a different lifestyle. I grew up in Palm Beach County. All right, so I know what you're saying, and I know how what you're saying as far as your wife is concerned, and even when I was working in radio here back in the early '80s, I'm thinking, wow, do I really want to move to Martin County? And the minute I had the opportunity to move here, I did, and it's been a great experience for me. We moved in about '84, '85, and it has just been tremendous. We've raised our children here. Now we're raising our grandchildren here. it's a great place to live. There's no question. So, Tom, thank you so much for being a part of the Lauri J. Goldstein show here this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a great day.
All right, you brought up a good point. You brought up the fact that you're from New Jersey. We've got Dan here, and he's from New Jersey as well. We're going to talk a little bit about Dan from New Jersey in our next segment here on the Lauri J. Goldstein Show. So stick around with us. You went to law school at Rutgers.
Yes,
huh?
I did.
Wow. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that and see how that worked out. Obviously, it worked out pretty well for you, but it kind of leads us into something else that's important in your life, Dan, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well here on the Lauri J. Goldstein Show on this Tuesday here on 1450 WSTU.
Have a legal question? Talk to Lauri for free. 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU.
Well, we are back in the waning moments of the Lauri J. Goldstein Show here on 1450 WSTU. Once again, we have Dan Norton with us, who is a board-certified civil trial attorney with the offices right here of the Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates at 1330 South US 1 in Stuart, Florida. And Dan, you're from the New Jersey area, just like Tom is, and but you went to Rutgers University for a little bit of law school there, huh?
For law school, yeah. I went to Bucknell University in Pennsylvania undergrad, but I went back home to New Jersey for law school.
And how did that work out for you? I understand that when you were there in New Jersey, you did some sports to get into Rutgers, didn't you?
Yeah, I was lucky. I had a family that was very supportive and a father who was an amazing athlete in his own. He played professional basketball and turned out to be one of the greatest coaches that I've ever had. And he instilled in me not only the love of sports, but even more so the love of coaching, which I've actually been doing longer now than I actually played any sport my entire life. I've been coaching longer than I ever played.
Wow. And do you coach basketball, or do you coach soccer or baseball? Which one is your favorite?
It's funny. I coach baseball primarily, and I love coaching baseball, and that seems to be the one that I've coached the most. However, one of the interesting things that I learned again from my father was if you know how to coach and you know how to treat kids, you can coach any sport, even sports that you haven't played. So in my life, I've coached hockey, football, basketball, soccer, baseball. I mean, it's just if you can connect with kids, you can coach.
Oh, absolutely. Now, do you have a legacy going on here? You said your dad was good in sports. I mean, you were the captain of the Rutgers soccer team, I believe.
Actually, the Bucknell soccer team.
A Bucknell soccer team,
right?
And then how about your son?
My son has turned out to be a real diamond in my life. He's a kid that probably had less natural talent than most of the kids around him. But anybody that he has ever played for or played with tells me that he works harder than any 10-year-old they've ever seen, has the best attitude of any 10-year-old they've ever seen, and because of that will play on their team no matter what. And he has become a terrific baseball player, playing travel baseball, playing all-star baseball.
Wow.
And just a great kid.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you know what they say, attitude is everything.
Yep.
And that's very, very important. There's no question about that.
Let me just say, though, because I have a daughter also who is very into theater, and if I don't mention her while I'm talking about my son's sports, I can't go home.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
I am equally as proud of my daughter in how hard she has worked in the area of theater. Also, she's been doing that for a few years.
I understand that she's been cast in a few different events there,
Yeah, I mean,
type of plays and things.
She's been doing it now for about 4 years, and when you stop and think that a 9-year-old did Les Miserables,
wow,
that's pretty incredible stuff.
It is.
Yeah,
that's tremendous. Wow. Well, that's one of the other things that we have here, right, Tom? We've got theater.
I was just thinking that my daughters went to Martin County High School. They were 5 years apart. Both of them were involved in drama and band. And Les Miserables. I mean, they did so many plays over the years. Beauty and the Beast, Miss Saigon, just countless numbers, and they have such a great program for a public school system. It's amazing.
They really do, and great venue too.
Another reason your daughter will love it.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
She's been to Starstruck, and she would be very happy going to Starstruck regularly.
Starstruck is fantastic.
Yes.
What a great organization they are. That's a great 501c3 as well. Well, listen, we have had a great day here on the Lauri J. Goldstein Show. We invite you to join us again next week. We're here every Tuesday, 10 o'clock at 1450 WSTU, 1450WSTU.com. And you can catch us anytime on the web, on Ustream as well. So if you missed any portion of this program, make sure you check it out because we're on there on Ustream as well. On 1450 WSTU. Dan, thank you so much for being here and being a part of the Lauri J. Goldstein firm. We really appreciate all the things that you're doing for not only for the firm, but especially for the clients. And Tom, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Barry.
For Trade Winds. All right. We'll be back next week right here on the Lauri J. Goldstein Show on 1450 WSTU.
You've been listening to the Lauri J. Goldstein Show on 1450 WSTU. Brought to you by a law firm of Lauri J. Goldstein and Associates, 1330 Southeast Federal Highway in Stewart. Working hard for the injured and a community partner that cares. Call them at 772-222-2222. The views expressed by Lauri J. Goldstein and her guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of 1450 WSTU. Join Lauri next Tuesday at 10 a.m. for the Lauri J. Goldstein Show on 1450 WSTU.